everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be diving in to the new eye and cheek palettes from Chanel. Now I sound quite nasally in this video. I'm recovering from a horrible cold to the point where I completely lost my voice. I was really congested, and back in February my husband and I both had COVID, and I think my immune system was just like torn down from fighting COVID. And somehow I was exposed to the cold, got the cold. That's the reason why I haven't been uploading any videos, but I'm back. I apologize for the nasally voice, but at least it's coming back. So I could not wait to get my hands on these two palettes from Chanel. This is a part of their new spring and summer collection. And I know that many other creators were able to get them quite early. And I unfortunately had to wait for them to come in stock at retailers. There is no local Chanel boutique in Utah where I live, so therefore never able to get anything from Chanel early. These each retail for $90 and they come in two different color combinations. And of course I had to pick up both. I don't know. I just could not help myself. I wanted both of them, so I grabbed both of them. And in my defense, I really didn't spend a lot on makeup in February, so my budget allowed for me to buy both. So there you go. This is what we're talking about. They are quite large. The pan sizes are much larger than I thought they would be. In the application portion of the video, I compare the size of these next to like the Charlotte Tilbury face palettes and the face palettes from Hourglass, just so you guys can get an idea of the size of these. They're big enough to the point where you don't have to worry about your brush picking up two of them at the same time, because there's enough room for each of the shades. So I do appreciate that. They are limited edition, and they're being described as a 4-powder shade featuring matte and satin finishes, and can be applied to the eyes and the cheek to sculpt, add warmth, and illuminate the look of the complexion and gaze. So each palette you get 12 grams worth of product, which is 0.42 ounces. So it's just under a ½ ounce worth of product, and they are made in Italy. These palettes are available at a few retailers. I will leave a link to the retailers that I find them available at down in the description box down below, so you guys can check it out and decide where you want to buy them. I personally like buying straight from the Chanel website just because they do such a great job with packaging, and the overall presentation feels so luxurious. That's just my preference. I actually picked these up on Normstrom's because they were available a few days early than they were on the Chanel website. That's pretty much the details on these, you guys. In this review, I'm going to apply both of the palettes on my face and eyes so you guys can see how they look. For complexion reference, I am a medium with a golden undertone, and I will leave a list of popular foundations out on the market and what shades I wear in those foundations, so you guys can get an idea of my complexion and how both of these palettes look on my complexion. Once we get through the application of both of the palettes, then I'm going to get into the swatches and comparisons, and you guys know that I love to bring a lot of swatches and comparisons. Prepare for a lot of images in that selection. I like to share my images with and without a flash, just because I feel like the flash can kind of bring out the undertone of shades. I will compare these shades next to other blushes and the 2 highlight shades in each of the palettes next to other highlight shades, just so you guys can see how these shades look, how they compare to what's out of the market, and if they are something that you need in your collection. Once we get through the swatches and comparisons, I will jump into my final thoughts. So that's pretty much it for the intro. Let's go ahead and jump into the application, and I will see you guys all in my final thoughts. Let's go ahead and jump into these new palettes. These pans are quite big. I mean, look at it compared to my face. Let me show you guys what it looks like next to like a Charlotte Tilbury palette. This is one of her latest. This is the Beautifying Face palette. So this is what it looks like. Ooh, if I can pick it up without messing it up. Okay, so it's quite large. It really is. And it's about the same size as the face palette from Charlotte Tilbury. So let me put it kind of in front of it. See, it's about the same size, which is good. I quite like the size of it, especially with how much it is. How does it compare to like the Hourglass We all know this is one of my absolute favorite launches of 2022. And they're very comparable in size. Kind of something to take note of. So like I said, they come in 2 different color variations. And this one is, ooh, I don't even know how to pronounce that. Hold on tight because I gotta Google this crap. All right, hey Google, how do I pronounce C-A-R-A-C-T-E-R-E?
Caractère.
That's hard to say. Caractère? This is what YouTube says that this is how you pronounce it.
Caractère.
I don't know.
Caractère.
I can barely pronounce hard English words. But that's what this palette is. So I'm just going to use the number. So this is 958. Caractère. I don't know. But this is the darker of the 2. And it's really pretty. I'm kind of excited. They feel really silky, but also baked at the same time. It kind of feels like a baked formula in a sense. And then we have the lighter of the 2. So this one is 957 Tendresse. So this is the lighter of the 2. And I'm going to hold them both up for you so you can see them both, if I can pick them up without dinging them. So that's what they look like. And I'm actually quite excited to try out this shade and this shade, like over top of it. Looks really, really pretty. I have 2 brush options. I have a synthetic brush from BK Beauty, and I also have a natural haired brush from Sonia G, which is the Cheek from the Lotus set. And I love this brush. So this is the number 112 from BK Beauty, and it's synthetic. So that is the lighter palette. And I seriously love that shade, but I do have that shade in a lot of shade palettes, so I can't like fully say that I don't have it. But okay, so that's the darker. And the only thing is, I don't know if it's just me, but these 2 shades right here, okay, these 2 on my complexion look too similar to be in one palette. That's just my opinion, but like, there's not a lot of differences between these 2 shades. Shades definitely vary from complexion to complexion. So, you know, something to take note of. All right. I am going to go into the lighter palette and I'm going to grab this shade and I'm going to stick it like right here. That's quite pretty. And I'm using the synthetic brush, just FYI, and it's picking it up quite nicely. Okay, I'm going to wipe it off. And then let's go into this shade right up here on the top. Okay, so both of them are quite pretty. So it adds a little bit of a shine to the skin. But I wouldn't say it's shimmery though. So it kind of has that iridescence, kind of that pearlized effect, but it's not shimmery and it's not glittery. So I actually quite like how those look. It's really pretty. I'm going to go up on that highlighter though, this one right here. And that's really pretty. Ooh, that's super pretty. And for that being the actual highlighter, it doesn't have that glitter effect and it doesn't have that shimmery effect. It's more of that pearlized look. And that is a really gorgeous highlighter, especially for those like me that are really not wearing a lot of highlighters lately. That's just, I don't know, I've kind of pulled away from them. Okay, what I am going to do before we move on to the other palette is I'm going to go ahead and grab the shade with a blending brush. I'm going to bring that up here on the crease. Because these are so lightweight on the face, it almost feels like it might be kind of hard to pick up and put on the eye. I don't know. So that was a natural hair brush. So I was using the Ref for 14. And it wasn't really picking it up very good. So I'm going to switch to the A502 from BK Beauty. And I'm going to go into that shade and see if it will like pick it up. But because it kind of has a little bit of that baked texture to it, I'm having a hard time getting it to pick up. It's like you just know that you have to go into it several times, right? Especially this shade. I mean, I'm sure this shade is probably not going to be that way, but this shade, I almost had to go into it a little bit more than I would have liked. But since you're using these on the face, you really don't want them to be overly pigmented anyways. You never want something that you're putting on your face to be overly pigmented. No. So I get it. Okay, now I'm going to go into the darker shade on the top, and I am going to, yeah, it just doesn't pick up very much. Like, I mean, it works eventually, but you just really have to build it up. I would say more so than you do a traditional blush. So like if I went into a regular blush, I have something in my eye. Like if I went into a regular blush, I don't think I'd have to work this hard to get it to apply, you know, because it does have that like baked silky texture. Brushes have a hard time picking it up, especially if you're wanting to build the pigment, right? So I'm going to take a more dense packed brush, and I'm going to go into that dark shade on the top and bring it here on the lower lash line. And then I'm going to bring a little bit of it here on the outer corner. But you see what I mean? Like, you really have to work to get these to build up on your eye. Now I'm going to go into this shade right up here, which is picking up much better than the other shades. And look how gorgeous that is. Yes, that is so pretty. Because that brush is so good at picking up stuff, maybe I try to grab this color with it. Hey, that brush is working great. So this is the Smith 253 brush. It's my favorite brush to apply like shimmer eyeshadows with. And this is working great. Like this is working much better than those other brushes I was using. The lighter palette on me is doable on the eye. If you're my complexion, just know that you're gonna have to work a little bit harder to get it to show up on your eyes. So let's move on to the darker palette. I'm gonna use a natural hair brush just because I used a synthetic on the other side. So I am gonna go into the darker shade, and I'm gonna put it here on this side, right? Like, it's really pretty, you guys. Okay, I'm gonna wipe the brush off, and then I'm gonna go into the shade on the top. Whether you have synthetic or natural brushes in your collection, they both work great with these powders and textures. They're really soft on the skin, so they don't really have any harshness to them, no patchiness or muddiness or anything like that. Like they're quite pretty, I do have to admit. All right, now I'm gonna take the Wayne Goss number 3 brush, and I'm gonna go into this really pretty gold highlighter. Now this might be too dark for my complexion, but we'll see how it goes. Let's try these on the eyes. So I'm gonna take the 257, the Smith 257. I'm gonna go into that top gold shade, this one. And I'm gonna put it here on the center. So that shade isn't as like shimmery, if you will, as the lighter palette, but it's really pretty. You can see that it has that natural shine to it, but it's not overwhelming or anything like that. It's really pretty. All right, we're gonna try this again. I'm gonna use the Rephr number 14. Let's go into these two colors. I'm just gonna kind of mix them and see if I can get these two to kind of show up in the crease, or if I have to work as hard as I did the first one. Yeah, I mean, it shows up. You just kind of gotta go into it a little bit more. I'm gonna just kind of mix these two shades. And I think these palettes are meant to just be like super easy to use, like, you know, kind of quick out the door. It's very monochromatic. You know, use your bronzer to kind of define the crease. And I mean, it's kind of one of those, right? So I'm going to go into the bottom shade, and I'm going to put this on the lower lash. Okay, so that's it for the application. I'm going to go ahead and jump off of here, finish the rest of my makeup. We're going to go ahead and jump into the swatches. I'm going to swatch these two palettes next to a bunch of other blushes that I have in my collection so you guys can get an idea of these tones and how they compare, and then we'll jump into my final thoughts. So I will see you guys then. So I'm back. I hope that those swatches and comparisons were helpful. I have been swatching for the last 5 hours. That's how long it took me to do both of these palettes and all those comparisons. And I was also reviewing the Hermes bronzers. So I will be putting that video up tomorrow in case you guys are interested. But all of those swatches, oh my gosh. My finger is like stained pink. My arm is pink. Like, I have been doing this for 5 hours, but I do hope that those images were helpful. The one thing that I did want to mention that you probably noticed is I didn't really have a lot to compare this palette to. So this palette is quite unique. This is the darker of the two. This one is the 958. So the only shades that I had in my collection that were similar were in the cream or liquid formula. So I do apologize for kind of throwing that in there, but I just don't really have blushes that are these shades. And that's not a bad thing, by the way. But I just didn't really have a lot of single blushes to compare it to. So with that said, I do hope that those images were helpful. Let's go ahead and jump into my final thoughts. First things first, you guys, I actually really like these palettes. I don't know that I'll use them on the eyes all that much, but I do really like them on the face. And the one thing that I can say that I particularly noticed as I was swatching and comparing, these are quite unique. Whether you're interested in the 957, the lighter palette, or the 958, the darker of the two, I think they're going to be quite unique in your collection, because that was kind of what really stood out to me the most, is that with all of the makeup that we have, it's nice to have something that's unique in color story. And the formula is really buttery and they are so blendable. And I mean, it's been hours since I did my makeup. I would say, let's see, right now it is 8:40 p.m. I got done putting on this makeup right around like 1 o'clock. So I ate lunch and then I started swatching and then I just ate dinner and now I'm, so that's the reason why it's so late. But all these hours later, my blush is still really pretty and you can see it's still pigmented. At the end of the day, these are nice. They are nice. And I know they're limited edition. I think if you like more of that silky baked formula, I think you'll enjoy these. If you don't like baked formula, you probably won't. I don't think that these are being described as a baked formula, but that's what this reminds me of. Especially swatching it and applying it, it just feels kind of like that baked texture. And they're gorgeous. I mean, these are really beautiful palettes. And I think Chanel kind of shocked me with this, to be honest with you. I really wasn't expecting this. And I wasn't really expecting to love them as much as I do. They're really pretty, you guys. Like, these are really, really pretty palettes. Quite impressed with them, to be honest with you. And yeah, I don't have anything negative to say about them. I just don't. I think it's all going to depend on if you're in the market for this and you want to splurge on it, because they're $90. They're not cheap. So you have to look at your collection. Do you have many face palettes, right? Do you have them from Charlotte Tilbury? Do you have them from Nars, right? Like, if you have quite a few face palettes, are these fully necessary? Probably not. They're really not. But if you decide to splurge on them, these will probably be pretty unique as far as color story goes in your collection, from single to blush palettes, because the tones are quite unique. And I think that's what really made me kind of give it the full pass. Like, I felt like after applying it, I loved the formula and I thought it was really, really easy to apply and blended beautifully. Like, I didn't have anything negative to say about the formula. But once I started swatching and really comparing my entire collection and going through my blushes and being like, yeah, that's not the same. Yeah, that's not the same. Yeah, that's not gonna compare. I realized that they're quite unique, and I appreciate that, because it's kind of hard to do in today's world of makeup, right? To have something that we don't already have, right? So it's all going to depend on if this is something you want to splurging on. If you're in the mood to buy something for yourself and splurge on it, and these are, caught your eye, you won't be disappointed. If you're on a no buy, don't be tempted, right? Like, just decide if these are something that you want. Those are my overall thoughts. Sound off down below. How many of you guys have picked up these palettes? I know they just launched, but I'm really curious. If you have either one of these palettes or both of them, let us know in the comment section down below your experience. Like I've always said, your guys' input and experience that you guys share in the comment section down below is just as informative and as important as it is for anybody to come on behind a camera and share their thoughts. So definitely sound off down below. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. I'm so happy to be back. I have so many things to review. I need to catch up. I feel like I'm completely behind. I am completely behind. I have the new Gucci foundation that I'm actually wearing today. I have the new Givenchy Prism Libre concealer, which I'm wearing today. I have the new Laura Mercier foundation, which I have been wearing. I wore it like twice this week, but yeah, I have a lot. I have a whole box of things that I need to get through. So lots of fun stuff coming up. I hope you guys all have a wonderful day, and I will see you guys all in my next video. Love you. Bye.